Hey, it's Hannah from Hand Plans. Thank you so much for joining me for another video today. Today's video, I wanted to talk to you guys about my book journals or my reading journals. This is upside down. My book journals. I have two of them. I have one that I made myself or customized myself from plum paper. This is a seasonal cover, not seasonal cover. They do covers of the month, and this was the cover of the month back in September. So I don't think this cover is available now, but all the inside stuff is still available. So I can link this down below. And then I also have this one that I got at Barnes & Noble back in September, October, sometime around then. And today I wanted to show you guys how I'm using them, what I have done to make them my own, and some books that I've already read for the year 2021 so far. So let's jump right into it. So first I wanted to talk to you guys about the books that I have read so far in 2021. I have read 6 books as of the day that I am filming this, and it is February 18th. So I've read 6 books at this point, and I'm currently reading 2 more. So we'll see what happens by the end of February, what I finish. So as I said, I've read 6 books, and I've read 1 book that I've given 5 stars. I've read 2 books that I've given 4 stars. 2 books I've given 3 stars, and 1 book I gave 2 stars. So far, I've been all over the place with my reading and what I've enjoyed so far. The first book that I read this year, and I'm going to put the covers in this space, is This Time Next Year by Sophie Cousins. I gave this book 3 stars out of 5. It was marketed as a romance, but I don't think it's a romance. It's definitely slow burn, and there's romantic parts of it, but I feel like this book was a lot more about female relationships and female friendships, and that's fine. Those are good things to talk about. Those are good stories to have, but I just think it missed the mark for me because it was marketed as a romance, and that's not what I got from it. But I didn't hate the book. I really liked it. It started out strong, and then towards the middle was when it started to realize this is more about female friendships, which is, again, fine. Those things need to be talked about. It's just fell a little flat for me. The second book that I read this year was Ties That Tether by Jane Acaro, and this is the book that I gave 5 stars. I thought this was so good. This was such a good romance. I thought the way that it brought 2 cultures together was beautiful. It brought together, it is about a Nigerian woman who made a promise to her dad when he was dying to marry a Nigerian man, and then she meets Raphael, who is Spanish, and his family is from Spain, and so it brings together those cultures very beautifully, and the story itself it had left me with no words. It was a really good story. I loved everything about it. For me, it was incredible. The third book that I read in 2021 so far was Big Summer by Jennifer Weiner, and was mainly, I listened to as an audiobook. I do not have a physical copy. I got it from the library. I needed something to listen to, and I wasn't intending to finish it, but then I actually got really into the book, and I gave it 3 stars. It was totally not what I expected it to be. The description of the book that they give you is, yes, that's what happens, but it's so much more than that. It goes off the rails in a way that I didn't expect, and I don't want to give anything away, so I'm not going to say like how it goes off the rails, but yes, while the summary they give you for the book, all those things do happen, but then there's like way more that happens that makes this story so worth reading. I just was bored at the beginning, which is why I gave it 3 stars, which is why I wasn't going to finish it. And then about halfway through the book, there's like a huge thing that flips the whole thing upside down, so then I had to finish it. So yeah, 3 stars. It was just boring for me at the beginning, but I did really come to enjoy it once I hit like the 50% mark. The 4th book I finished this year is The Night Swim by Megan Golden, and this book I gave 4 stars. This book is about a woman named Rachel who is a podcast host. She is a true crime podcast host, and she goes to this small town. She's covering this rape case that's going on, and at the same time she's getting letters from this woman about the death of her sister and how people are saying it was accidental, but she thinks there was more to it. And so it goes into the rape case and all of that and the trial, and talks about serious conversations about how rape cases are handled through our legal system. And it's a very real, very raw reading experience. There were times where it was very, very hard to get through, but I also think that those times were super important as readers to read and to hear those stories, even if they are fiction, because there are too many stories that are not fictional, that are real and that are going on, while at the same time you're getting these like two stories at the same time, and how they come together in the end was really cool. The fifth book I read this year so far was Cape May by Chip Cheek, and this is the book I gave 2 stars. This book was frustrating to read. It was the shortest one I've read so far, but it really was a chore to get through at points. This is about it takes place in the 1950s. It is about 2 newlyweds, Henry and Effie, and they go on their honeymoon they live in Georgia, and they go on their honeymoon in Cape May, New Jersey, which was fun for me to read because I am originally from New Jersey. And so I was really excited to read a book about a place where I know. But they go at Cape May and it's like off season, so there's really not that many people there. And then they find one of Effie's childhood friends, someone she knew from childhood, and the story kind of takes off from there. There's a lot of partying and a lot of experimentation and a lot of crazy antics they get themselves into in the off season in Cape May, and that was probably the only redeeming quality of this book. I know that's kind of harsh, but I felt as I was reading it, I felt like an outsider looking in. When I read a book, I want to feel like I'm part of the story, and this whole entire time I felt like I was an outsider looking in. I felt very detached and disconnected from these characters. There was not a lot of character growth from beginning to end, and the ending of the story was just very disappointing, and it fell flat overall. Again, the only redeeming qualities were like the fun parties and stuff that they were going to. That was the only part I enjoyed reading. And then the last book that I read this year so far was Una Out of Order by Margarita Montemor, and oh my god, I just finished this the other day. This book was so good. I gave it 4 stars out of 5, and the only reason I didn't give it 5 stars was because I felt like there was a lot of unanswered questions about the plot. And the plot of this story is about a woman named Una who her birthday is on New Year's Day, and she starts off at this New Year's party with her boyfriend and all of her friends, and she's about to turn 19, and then at the stroke of midnight she wakes up and she's in 2015 and she is 51 years old and has no idea where she is, who she is, what happened, and what's going on. And every birthday she leaps to a different age and lives her life out of order. And the reason why I knocked off 1 star was just because I felt like I wanted to know why, and I didn't get that why. But I really enjoyed leaping through the years with Una and watching her grow and become basically from a child, a teenager, to this wise woman as she's lived her life in different ages, and so, out of order. Those were the 6 books that I've read so far this year. So now let's jump into my book journal that I've been staring at this whole time as I'm talking to you, and we'll show you my reviews and how I'm using my book journals for this year. Hey, me again. Oh my gosh, except this time it's just my hands. I wanted to show you guys now my 2 book journals and kind of give you a tour through both of them so I can show you how I'm using them this year with the books that I am reading. So the first one I want to show you guys is this one over here, this bound one. I got it at Barnes & Noble. So it's already like pre-filled in, pre-made and everything for you. So it says my book journal. You open it up and it already has a table of contents. It has way more in here than just pages for you to write reviews and keep a reading log. It tells you a little bit about it. So this is where I started. I started this one back in October because back in October is when I really wanted to start with a physical reading log, something I could write in. And I wanted this one to be just for 2021, but I wanted something that I could start right away. So I started this one right away in October when my first book was Daisy Jones and the Six. And so I got a little bit ahead of myself with this one. Some of these books I haven't actually read yet. They were on my TBR in those months, and then I just never read them. But it gives you space for 100 books, which is really cool. And then the reading log corresponds with the review pages. So you can write all these reviews for the books. So like this one I read Home Before Dark by Riley Sager, and I wrote a review on this page for it. And again, I got a little bit ahead of myself. I haven't actually read either of those books yet. Haven't read that one either. And some of them, like I read Ready Player One, I just haven't written the review yet for it in here, and all of these things. So that's that one. Oh wait, and at the back, so it gives you more than, like I said earlier, it gives you more than just those review pages and reading log pages. It gives you all of these challenges. So this is really good for when you maybe are unsure about what book to pick up next. You can flip to a challenge, and they have the challenges like all over the internet too. So not just in here, but you can go on Pinterest, or I'm sure Instagram and YouTube. I'm sure there are a ton of book challenges out there that you can go to if you are struggling of what book you want to pick up next. So like this one would be a book by or about someone you admire. So that could be like a memoir or a biography. A book of short stories. I would never think to pick up a book of short stories because that's just not usually what I'm into. But if I'm looking for something to read, then that might be some good place to start. And then you have an opportunity to make your own book list. So your 10 favorite books of all time, your 10 favorite characters, favorite villains, favorite first sentences. There are so many of these book lists. Like they just keep going. And it's like another way to categorize your favorite books that you've read, or things about the favorite books that you've read. These are the best book lists, and like this one I've also tried to make my own. So like I put a check mark in the checkbox if I own it, and I crossed it out if I've read it. So some of these, like The Great Gatsby, I own, but I also read it in high school, but part of me wants to read it again now that I'm not in high school anymore. But also, for example, I have Lord of the Flies crossed out here. I also read that in high school, but I will not read that again. I did not enjoy that book. And so we have the 100 best books of nonfiction. And then we've got some Pulitzer Prize winners list. So again, I really like this as a resource just to pick up books that maybe I normally wouldn't think of myself. We got our book club reading list, if you're in a book club, and some questions, some notes to take. I think that's the end of it. So a wish list of books to read. There's really good things in here. I really like this. I'm not sure if this is still available at Barnes & Noble. If it is, I will link it in the description down below. And so if you want to grab yourself one, you can do that. Moving that to the side, bringing in this one. This one I love. I love this one. I love it because I've made it my own. It's my own ideas. I did get some ideas from some TikToks that I watched of people setting up their book journals. So I will also link those down below to give credit. But I've taken their ideas and adapted them into my own and making this my tried and true book journal for 2021. This is from Plum Paper. This cover was a cover of the month, so I don't think it's available anymore, but I will still put the Plum Paper website down below because you can still customize literally anything you want. This is just one of their standard notebooks. It is in the A5 size, which is their smallest size. So I open it up and I put a little sticker here about reading. And I'm just going to give you guys a quick tour of this book journal and how I'm using it. So I have here my monthly TBRs. Every single Plum Paper notebook or planner comes with these pages at the beginning. So this spread here has a box for each month and they're labeled. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. Yeah. So it's like January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, until all the way to December. And I put, these are the books that I own, and then I put library reads down here because I'm also reading books from the library. That's why none of these in February have been crossed out yet, because I'm trying to get all my library books read so I can return them and not have to pay a fine. But yeah, so, and if I finish it, I've crossed it out. So I've read this time next year, The Night Swim, Ties That Tether, Big Summer. I've also read 2 more, but those were library reads, so I'm going to keep them on the library list. And then you get another spread of these, but this time the boxes are not labeled. So I decided to make this spread the books I finished this year. And so each box is a genre, so I can organize them by genre and see what genres I'm reading a lot of. So I put each one of the books that I've read so far this year in a genre. So I have romance, mystery thriller, classics, fantasy, contemporary, historical fiction, literary fiction, science fiction, biographies and memoirs, any nonfiction books that I'm reading, horror, and YA or children's. The next page is my stats for the year. So I saw this online too, and I really thought it was a cool idea. So I have the month here, I have the number of books, the pages I've read, books that I've owned, books I've gotten from the library, and books I've listened to on audio. So most of the time I do get my audiobooks from the library, but I wanted to make it its own category just because I'm curious, and I'll have it all for each month of the year, and then at the bottom I'll put the totals when I get to December. So this one page, I made my 5-star favorites. I haven't decided if I'm going to color them in yet, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes when I have more books that I've given to 5 stars too. So right now it's just The Lonely One, but hopefully there will be more as I keep reading this year. But I love how this turned out. This looks so cool. This is my GoodReads challenge page. So my GoodReads challenge is to read 35 books this year, and hopefully I'll make it. Last year I read a total of 33 books, so I think it's a very achievable goal. So for each month, for each book I made a box, and I'm color coding it by month. So once I finish a book, I'm going to use the color up here to color it in. So I read 3 books in January, and I've read 3 books so far in February, and then I'm listing them over here with the star rating that I gave them. Over here, I have an alphabet reading challenge. I saw this in somebody's TikTok, which I thought was a really cool idea. And I'm reading a book for each letter of the alphabet. This one, I'm just kind of seeing what I read, and if it works, it's cool. You know, I don't have to read 26 books of my 35 with different letters of the alphabet. I'm not going to limit myself to that. But I think it's a really cool thing to track and to see what you're doing. And I read This Time Next Year. I also read Ties That Tether. That's also a T. So I'm just tracking the first book I've read this year with that letter for the alphabet, if that makes sense. This next page over here is for the Buzzword Reading Challenge. It is a challenge hosted, well, not really hosted, but facilitated by Kayla from Books and Lala. I'll link her channel down below. And it is a GoodReads group too, which I will also leave in the description in case you are interested in joining that group. But it's a really cool challenge where each month you get a buzzword, and that book you read has that word in the title, or it's that series, or it's about those things. So for January, it was Dream. So I was reading Dreamland. I haven't finished it yet. I kind of put it on the side because I just wasn't into it, but I do still plan to finish it. So I have Dreamland by Sarah Dessen. And for February is Colors. So I was going to read the book Red, White, and Royal Blue because it's got colors in the title. And for Time for March, I'm waiting for it on hold at the library. So we'll see if I get it in time. But it's This Is How You Lose the Time War, I think this is the title. It's really long, but it's something like that. And so for each month, it's either a word or a theme that you put in that is in the title of that book or the title of the series. And yeah, I also really like being a part of that group because I don't own any books with time in them except for This Time Next Year, which I've already read. So I wanted to kind of branch out and look at other people's suggestions for that buzzword for that month. And then I'm going to list the ones that I read on this back page. And then book club picks. Me and my friends and I, we were going to do a book club, but we'll see what happens with that. I am also a member of Book of the Month subscription service. And so I wanted to track the books that I've picked here. And so highlighted in blue is my actual Book of the Month pick from the 5 books that they've given you. And then highlighted in gray are my add-ons. So I have, usually I do at least 1 add-on a month. You can do up to 2, but I usually do at least 1, if not both, every single time. Oops. And then this was a challenge that I came up with for myself just because I think these are so much fun. And they're a combination of challenges that I've created in the past and challenges that I saw on TikTok or Pinterest or Instagram or YouTube, people creating their own challenges. So it's kind of a combination of all of them, but so far I've only filled in two prompts. But again, it'll just be a fun thing to track to see where I ended up at the end of the year. This, my stepmom sent me at the beginning of quarantine, the PBS like ultimate reads list, and I thought it would be a really cool thing to track in my reader's journal. Maybe just for this year, something I keep going back to. I don't think I'll keep track of it every year, but I had the pages and I wanted to include them in here. And I highlighted the ones that I have read or that I own. So I think these are, again, another place to look if I don't know what to read next. So it goes this page, and then a little bit onto this page. Then I created an author challenge. So these are some prompts about authors. And I'm sure I'll have more than one for each prompt, but I wanted to just track a couple things about some new authors. Just, again, another fun thing to track in this journal. This is my library list. So these are all the books that I have so far checked out from the library. So I had Una Out of Order, The City We Became, Ties That Tether, Big Summer, The Night Swim, Cape May, The Lions of Fifth Avenue, which I'm reading right now, and then Black Sun. So I have my library list here. It's like an inventory from the library. And then I have a little key up here. And so I highlighted it in yellow if I just got the audiobook. I highlighted it in this pink color if I just had the ebook. This like greenish bluish color and with the P for like the physical copy of the book, and then gray as for multiple mediums. So if I had the book in physical copy and the audiobook, or the ebook and the audiobook, then I highlighted it in gray. And then I had this really fun washi tape from Simply Gilded. It's like a bookshelf. I thought it was really fun. And then these two pages, I'm going to do a summer reading challenge on this page. And I was going to put an annotation key, but I really just annotate the quotes that I like, and I just put a page flag, and then I'm going to write them down, as you'll see as I go into my reviews. So I don't know if I'm going to do that. I might just do a double page spread for my summer reading. I'll see when I get to that point, though. And then I have extra pages in case there's something else I want to track for the year. And now we're getting into my reviews. So how I have my reviews page set up is the title, the author, it's the first book I read, so I put a 1. The year published, the genre, the reading experience, so I actually had the physical book, the rating I gave it, the dates I read it from, and my review. And then if I had quotes from the book that I pointed out, I put them at the bottom. And so I really enjoying this layout so far. It's been working for me, and it's been really fun to fill in. I haven't done it for every single book yet because I fell a little behind with work and everything, life and everything. I didn't have time to write down full reviews for all of these yet, but I also added a couple stickers just for fun. Yes, like I haven't done these two yet, but they're really good. Like, it's a really cool thing to look back on. And so, like for Una Out of Order, I filled this page. Like, I filled it. It was a great book. And so the rest of these is just dedicated to reviews. And if I have a decent amount of space left in this notebook at the end of the year, I'll probably also use it for next year's reading, but we'll see how that goes at the end of the year. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you're inspired to pick up a book or maybe start a book journal, or at least buy one that's already pre-made like I did. Have a fabulous day. Hope you are doing okay with everything going on, and I will see you in my next video.